Hey, everybody. My name's Andrew Magliazzi, and I'm the CEO and technical co-founder at AdmitHub. I also want to thank you all for coming here virtually from far across the world. I appreciate your time, and I'm excited to share with you what I'm working on. My understanding is that you're all interested in education, and as any good lecturer, I'd invite questions and engagement. Feel free to drop me a chat. I'll try to respond as quickly as I can. And I'm excited to jump in and see your ideas as well. So if anything inspires you or confuses you, please just let me know. In any event, I'm going to run you through a quick demo, some slides about what we do here at AdmitHub. And then I figured we could do some breakout sessions and hopefully generate some good ideas together. That concept should be pretty familiar to everybody at this point. Okay, let me share my screen and get going. Alrighty, here's a presentation. Here we go. So AdmitHub is a company that is just 3 years old, but we've accomplished a pretty great amount in a short amount of time. We build conversational AI for college success. What does that mean? We build chatbots to get students to and through college here in the US, as well as the UK. We started this company based on a particular problem. The problems are that a great deal of students who apply to school, get admitted, and intend to enroll at a university here in the US actually just never show up in the fall. That's this problem called summer melt, and it affects about 14% of students here in the US. This is a problem because, well, these students don't get an education, even though they want one. And it's also a problem for the universities because they're losing money. It costs them, billions of dollars. Likewise, in the US, only about half of students actually make it through college once they enroll, which, is not good, but it's not the worst in the world, but it could be a heck of a lot better. And again, this is costing schools a lot of money. It's actually the worst possible outcome for students. They leave school with no degree, but they might still have a couple of years worth of debt. And that can be challenging for their lives. Overall, the student services market is a pretty big one here in the US. And there's a lot of money. And I would say, although my heart is in the right place for this company, it still is a business ultimately, and you have to make a revenue and a sustainable business model. So by inserting ourselves into the flow of money in the economic system of the higher education, we can both make a difference in students' lives, help them succeed, but also impact the bottom line of the university. And that helps obviously make the business viable and hopefully will help us grow and develop the technology further so we can help more students. But like I said, we support students on the path to and through college. How do we do it? Well, we use a combination of behavioral economics, nudges, reminders, usually on people's mobile phones via text message, but we also operate on Facebook Messenger and other channels like Twitter or WhatsApp. Along with artificial intelligence, because anytime you send a nudge, whether it's a text message or a Facebook message, you're inviting a conversation. And so to have that instantaneous dialogue back and forth is incredibly important to resolving problems and helping students feel a sense of comfort, connection, and trust with us. And then finally, a lot of animated GIFs. This is silly, but as the First Lady is showing, animated GIFs are pretty awesome, former First Lady, and that they can be incredibly inspiring to students and to help build that relationship. I would almost give a third of the credit to the clever GIFs we create and send to students. But like I said, we meet students where they are on their mobile devices. And not only that, we're not asking them to download new applications or install anything or even sign up for a service. In many cases, the schools that are our partners would provide us with student contact information, a phone number, Facebook ID, and we can just reach out to them directly and start the conversation. It's a big deal to meet students where they are. They don't have to change their behavior in any way. We're chatting with them in the same place they chat with their friends. Similarly, we meet college partners and counseling staff where they are. They don't want to log into new technology or learn anything new if they don't have to. So we do a great job of trying to meet them on email and bridge the divide between the technology of one group of people who are working at a university and another group of people who are, striving to succeed at that same school, and helping them communicate with as much automation as we can provide in the middle. So telling a little bit of a story about trends in society, it's worth noting that chatbots have seen a rise in popularity around the same time as messaging apps have become more popular. In fact, I'm not quite sure about the stats overseas, but I know in the US, among teenagers, Facebook Messenger is actually more popular than Facebook itself, which was a stunning statistic that I had a hard time believing until I talked to a lot of teenagers. And it was it looks like Q1 of 2015 when the big four messaging apps actually overtook the big four social networking apps in terms of daily active users, or monthly active users, as this graph shows. It also helps the technology that is with the expectations, particularly among students and what is known as Generation Z today. Those are the people who are teenagers to like their early 20s. And they have just a different set of expectations. There are probably a lot of you in the audience right now who fall into that demographic where you don't know what the world was like before Google or Wikipedia. You have this essence that any question you have should be answered immediately. It should be personalized to you, and there should be a relationship that develops that someone on the other end, even if it's a robot, at least appears to care about you. And it should be available anytime, anywhere, and fulfill your instantaneous needs whenever you have them. That's a tall order, particularly for old institutions like higher education that, quite honestly still ask students to send faxes or call on the phone and wait for 2 to 3 hours to get an answer from a person. So what we're trying to do is, not only bring those institutions to the present day, but launch them into the future and deliver the expectations that students need, and hopefully help the students succeed in the process. I'll give you a brief insight into what we've done at one of our partners schools, Georgia State University. This is a large public institution here in the US, located in Atlanta, Georgia. And for them, they had a big summer melt problem, and they came asking us for help, and we built Pounce. Pounce is their school mascot. He's a blue panther, as you can see. He's very friendly. And we personified him in the form of artificial intelligent chatbot. Pounce is able to have supportive conversations, provide on-demand assistance, and then, when necessary, loop a human into the mix to get a student the help they need from a person. I'll dive a little bit deeper into what that exactly means. So the first part of the process is creating the brain. And this is an automated step, which is powered mostly by AI, where we collect a knowledge base and scrape the website for answers. We understand many of the questions the student have about random institutions, but getting very school-specific knowledge is key. And basically trying to collect all the things that a student might ask in the process of enrolling in this school. When we started with the Georgia State, they were our first partner. We had 225 understandings. An understanding is a group of questions and a single answer. Now I think we're about 2,000 understandings for Pounce's brain, about a year and a half in. So the basic premise of the technology is that it gets smarter the more it's used. It's a very exciting opportunity. And really, I built the thing, or at least the first version of it, and it was pretty remarkable to see in action. But more on that later. In any event, the other side of the yin and yang, the other balance of the equation is, we don't only answer student questions, but we reach out to students and gather information from them and initiate guided conversations about everything from, enrolling in the school to getting housing to submitting medical records and planning for transportation. What that looks like is sort of a branching conversation. If you've ever read a choose your own adventure novel or, seen a logic tree, it's much like that. So we might start with the initial message here on the left. Hey, first name, do you plan to park a car on campus? If the student says yes, we take the conversation in one direction. If they say no, we take it in another. This is a strikingly simple branching conversation, but you can imagine how they get complex pretty quickly. But before I show you that, we also provide the school with deep analytics and insight so they can see the answers to these questions and understand their student body, get a better sense of who needs help and with what, and what people are thinking. If you can imagine, it's, historically students and administration have been disjointed, but this is an opportunity to give people a chance to really understand what each other are thinking. I showed you that very simple chat conversation. Here's a much more complex one. This branching conversation is the map for the student financial aid process in the United States, which, as you can imagine, becomes incredibly complex the more detailed and deep you get into it. But as I was saying before, the marriage of these sort of branching conversations that we script with the unscripted knowledge base. So you can imagine someone might ask a question. We might reach out to you first and say, are you planning to park a car on campus? And that usually sparks not a immediate yes or no, but oh, when is it due? Or how much does it cost? Or can I even bring a car to campus as a freshman? Or are you a Justin Bieber fan? Anything you can imagine a student asking, and many things you can't imagine will come through to us. And basically the AI is there to respond immediately, give them a helpful hint or a response to the question in hand, and then get them back on track to doing the process that is also important in front of them, like filing some paperwork or completing the financial aid forms. And really the marriage of these two aspects of the technology has an astounding effect when you turn it on. It can only be described as something like this. Now, I realize that most of you have never seen Young Frankenstein, or maybe don't even know who Gene Wilder is, but we lost him way too early. But the fact of the matter is, I remember when I sent out my first campaign with our system to about 2,000 students and watched the responses coming in, being handled automatically, seeing the things that the system didn't know, quickly updating the knowledge base and watching them minutes later get handled automatically was awesome. I realized quite the power of the technology we had before us. And to give you an example of the degree to which we automated things, in the first 5 months we worked with Georgia State, we messaged only about 3,600 students. But those 3,600 students, 90% of them opted in. They exchanged about 185,000 messages. And we were able to automate over 90% of the communication, with AdmitHub staff taking some, and then the Georgia State staff taking the things that we just didn't know the answers to ourselves. It was a pretty remarkable process that we've repeated dozens of times since. Basically, we save college staff from being entirely overwhelmed. Imagine having the responsibility of communicating with thousands of people, and then having a switch flipped and feeling like this. That's how I felt, and I know that's how some of our partners feel almost every day when they use our technology. any event. Scott Burke, one of our partners, Georgia State Vice Principal of Undergraduate Admissions, said that he would have had to hire 10 full-time staff members to do the amount of work that Pounce was able to do on their behalf, which is an incredible multiplier effect and big impact, not only in the fact that we saved them tuition money from students, but we also save them staff time. And dollars and budget makes sense when it comes to business. You can think of your product as something that will help people make money or help people save money, and the best products do both. To give you a little more insight also into the Georgia State experience, we also engaged in empirical research. So we didn't just do this work, we did it as an A/B test, or what's known in the business as a randomized control trial. This is the same level of scrutiny that medical equipment and drugs go through in the United States. And so we did a research paper led by two outside researchers, Dr. Lindsay Page and Dr. Hunter Gelbach at the University of Pittsburgh and the University of California. And they helped us determine how well our product worked. So half of the students at Georgia State got Pounce, the other half were withheld. They were placed in a control group, and even if they tried to send them a message, they got a note saying that they were being withheld for research purposes. And overall, we had awesome results. Oh, by the way, before I tell you the results, I will say that doing an RCT as a startup founder is incredibly stressful. As you can imagine, like every day we see the bugs and the warts and the failings of the technology, and the fact that we had these outside people scrutinizing whether it worked, and really we were betting the business on this. If we came back with no results at all, we would have been out of business. So the fact is, and we hit so many snags, in fact, delays with launch due to legal issues and technical concerns of the school. We had hypothesized before launching that it would have no impact, which obviously made me incredibly stressed and explains some of the gray hairs that you might see up here. But, I would rather fail fast and prove that it didn't work than go on with a middling product that we weren't sure of and probably wasn't going to be successful, but I would have required more investment from people and wasted time on my part. So, I think finding out very quickly if you're a success or not, even a modest one, is a very valuable thing to do no matter the business. And we were very lucky. We had results that were astounding, about 3 times more impactful than our best hypotheses. So we increased enrollment 3.3 percentage points, which is a big deal, and reduced summer melts at the university by about 21%. We also increased every single checklist item, engagement and completion rates for every checklist item on the enrollment process. So the university was pleased. We saved the money in humans. We made them millions of dollars in tuition revenue. And most of all, we helped hundreds of students go to school who might not otherwise have enrolled, who most certainly wouldn't have enrolled otherwise. So the research has since helped us gain so much more traction with other partners. Moving on, a little bit about who we are. We are folks with deep AI and machine learning expertise from MIT and Harvard. My business partner, Kirk, spent his entire career in higher education here in the US. I spent my career building software for education. We were named one of the top 5 most innovative companies in education by Fast Company, and also we're lucky enough among amazing companies to get a Inclusive Innovation Award from MIT just a couple of weeks ago. So without ado, I'm going to help you think about maybe some breakout sessions that you could have. I think the key with chatbots is, I hope I haven't intimidated you with our technology, because it's astoundingly simple to build a chatbot. Now it's stunningly difficult to build a good one, but that shouldn't stop you. In fact, I would strongly encourage you to fake it before you make it for real. Even our first version of our technology didn't employ true machine learning like experts would define it. We used some other technical hacks, but it was necessary because we didn't have enough data, and we quite honestly didn't have the resources to be building the full product. But after we saw it in action and were able to understand its potential, we could hire more people, and we had more data there to train machine learning models. So I would say if you have an idea that you think can be impactful for folks, try it. You won't know if it's a success unless you do, and try it rigorously. Look at it as a scientist would look at it, because there's no sense in wasting your time on something you think might work. You should know it works, or know it doesn't, and move on to the next good idea you have. In any event, so here's some thoughts I was thinking you guys might want to take in the breakout sessions. And I'm glad to answer questions here, and might poke my head into some of those breakout sessions if there's time and room. But I thought there could be a few topics that folks might want to focus on, primarily in education. So universities, obviously, my product is focused on US and UK institutions, but there are challenges and problems facing institutions around the world, and I would encourage you guys to think about them. You might want to start a breakout for secondary schools, one for tutoring, one for emotional support. And this might seem funny. You might not think that a chat bot or a virtual assistant is something that would actually provide emotional support. But in our feedback from students, they tell us the most astounding things. Like they told us so many times, I prefer talking to a chat bot than to a person, because I feel like it won't judge me if I ask a stupid question. And there are so many times when people say, like, what's the FAFSA, for instance? And that is the pathway to financial aid in the United States, that if you don't know what the FAFSA is, you need to be educated on it immediately, because without it, you probably won't be able to afford a college degree. So the fact that like someone was comfortable enough to ask that question and we could solve and enlighten them was a big deal. People also share all sorts of other, challenges and struggles that they have. Maybe you wouldn't be surprised. I don't know, but the things they're willing to share with their virtual assistant oftentimes are things they might not even tell their close friends. And then I thought maybe a breakout session for non-traditional learning. That could be lifelong learning. That could be anything you can think of. I welcome you guys to define it. And then when you're in the breakout sessions, I think the tendency can often be to try and solve problems immediately, or let me tell you my idea, it's so great. But Albert Einstein had a great quote, which is, if he knew the world was going to end in 2 hours and he was tasked with saving it, he would spend an hour and 55 minutes defining the problem and only the last 5 minutes to solve it. And quite honestly, we've had these situations too, where oftentimes you jump to solutions far before you even know what the problem is. So I would ask you to articulate and understand who the people you want to talk to or talk about in these breakout sessions, what their problems are, and try to get deep empathy for them. Like understand their pain, their struggles, their challenges. What are the real issues? The solution might not be a chatbot, it might be a pencil. But if you can find problems, perhaps usually around, I'll tell you the problems that are most resonant with the technology are where you have to encourage people to do things that they know they need to do but don't always want to. Or it's not top of mind. Or it's a little bit pesky, but it has a payoff in the future. And so getting them to be in the immediate moment and do the things they need to do is the key. And that can be in the classroom. It can be outside of the classroom. It can be anywhere for that matter. So I'd love you to think of and empathize with the people in the situations, and it's best if the people in the situation are you, because you can empathize best with pain and challenges you face every day. And then finally, once you've gotten some things on the table and feel like you have a deep understanding, and the people in the breakout session understand the pain and the challenges, feel free to throw some novel solutions out there. And I will say, if you're going to build chatbots, you don't have to worry about building AI. You have to worry mostly about being able to write good chat messages. I would say the best way to prototype something would be to just text back and forth with your friend. And you say, you be the student and I'll be the bot. And we'll talk the way we wish the product performed. And then iterate, that's the best way to do it. Fake it till you make it and understand what works. And then talk to people and find out if you actually have reduced their pain or solved their problem. I think it could be powerful. In any event, that's it. I don't know if you know what Sesame Street is, but this is Cookie Monster. So think about it. And if you have questions for me, again, pop them in the chat. Let me know how I can help. Let's see if I can get this screen share off. Hopefully that didn't bore you, and you have time to come up with ideas of your own. I'm sure they'll change the world. Thank you.